Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back. It has been quite a while since I've uploaded a video to my channel and I want to apologize for that first of all. My wife was pregnant and in the meantime she has already given birth. Our daughter is now almost 6 weeks old and I'm finally getting used to my new lifestyle. We've moved to the new apartment, everything is set up. I have my PC finally completely set up, which is something I'm very happy about. Which means that now I just need to find the time to actually create the content because I did not anticipate that taking care of a child would be this much work, but here we are. We finally have a couple of minutes to record a video and I want to give you a bit of an update where I'm at in regards to Flesh and Blood, like what I'm doing so that you know what to expect from my channel going forward, as well what to expect from the Patreon support. Right now I have trimmed down my Flesh and Blood collection to only keep Ninja, Warrior, Assassin and Mechanologist stuff. Mechanologist I'm still considering if I want to sell that off as well, so I can just keep focusing on the big three that interests me personally the most, which is Ninja, Warrior and Assassin. But for the time being I will keep my Mechanologist stuff because I quite like playing the mech deck, especially I like building a Nitro Mechanoid and then attacking in with that. But for the most part I've been focusing on Katsu. Now with the new set coming out I do want to make a switch to Zen because the Tiger playstyle seems interesting to me. Of course, there hasn't been enough revealed yet to be able to give an honest opinion if the Zen deck will be better than Katsu. I kind of expect that it will not be better, but we need to wait and see what is going to be actually in MST. We don't know yet. So for my Katsu deck, this is the deck that I am at right now. This is the one that I've been mostly playing the past couple of weeks online and such. And I've made a couple of changes to kind of anticipate for the upcoming metagame, especially in regards to ProQuest and stuff like that. The thing that I've changed for the most part is that now in the sideboard I have a couple of time snap potions as well as lead to charge, because these are the things that I used to use in my chain deck when I was playing chain competitively to be able to play around an Arclight Sentinel. However, there is a bit of a problem with Katsu, especially when you are facing something like a Prism deck, because we are relying so much on combos in our playstyle to be able to get our big payoffs and our big win conditions onto the board, that even if you have something like a lead to charge, because the combat chain closes the moment that you attack into an Arclight Sentinel, then there's not really much you can do because you cannot finish your combo line. You kind of need to start over. So if you're up against a really good Prism player, even with the time snap potions and the lead to charges, there isn't a whole lot you can do. The only thing you can really do with these things is to at least turn like the Arclight Sentinel loop off. If they do it, then you can go ahead and clear the Angel so that they cannot continuously keep on looping the ALS back onto the field. So that's a thing. Secondly, I'm now respecting Kano decks. I've seen quite an increase in Kano decks in general, so I brought the Oasis Respites back into the deck instead of the Reinforced Lines. I had to cut a Razor Reflex as well. So I have AB3 with the Lantern, the Gloves and the Tie Flippers. There's a bit of a problem though, because now Hatchet's Dory is gonna be very popular in the upcoming meta as well. And I feel by being so focused on countering the Illusionist decks and so focused on countering the Wizard decks, that it leaves the deck a bit wide open against a full-on Warrior plan. Before we had to reinforce the lines that were kind of useful against things like the Dawnblade version of Warrior. Doesn't really do much against the current version of Dory because they're now going with the Hatchet instead. So I'm thinking that maybe I should choose to either forfeit my sideboard for the Wizard matchup or forfeit my sideboard for the Prism matchup and just hope for the best. Like maybe just keep the 3 time snap potions and get rid of the lead to charges and bring 3 copies of Sing Below back into the deck so I have a bit of a better matchup against Warrior, and also allowing me to have something against the Guardian decks as well, because right now it's just a Flick Flex and the Oasis Respites to be able to counter the Guardian Crush effect. So I'm not sure how to tackle that yet. I'm still playtesting a bit how I want to change that up, but for the most part this deck is pretty much optimized and good to go. I ended up cutting Soulbeat Strike from the deck, but in hindsight I might end up getting rid of Enlightened Strike instead. The thing about Enlightened Strike, it's a really good card. I've pretty much had it in my Katsu deck since the very beginning, since Welcome to Raid, but I'm starting to feel with the deck space getting more and more limited and you want to be really focused on ninja attacks and such, that sometimes the Enlightened Strike feels a little bit out of place that maybe having something like Soulbeat Strike would just be better in general. It would still be a 3-block, still a 0 cost to be able to discard it to a Katsu trigger. I will really miss the flexibility of E-Strike though if I do make the switch, but if I do put Soulbeat Strike back into the deck, at least it's a ninja attack action, which means that I can target it with the Ancestral Empowerments. Because right now, E-Strike for the most part, I'm almost never in a situation that I feel like, I want to play my E-Strike. The only times I want to play it is if, for example, block with 2 cards from hand, I keep the E-Strike and another card in hand, and then I want to just play it, cycle the other card and attack in for 7, or get to draw a card so I can put something in my arsenal. But for the most part, if you keep a blue and something like a Soulbeat Strike, you're still attacking for 6, you're losing 1 value, but it gives you more flexibility, and it also gives you the flexibility if you only have the Soulbeat Strike left in your hand, you still have a decent attack for 4, just straight up on the board. I run Warmonger's Diplomacy. Another thing you could do is to take the Warmonger Diplomacies out of the deck and bring in Lord of Wind. You could maybe cut a yellow or something else in the deck to put a single copy of Mugenshi Release. I think right now though, with Hatchidori being such a popular deck, that having the Warmonger's Diplomacy is quite good, because they have so many hidden runs and stuff like that, that makes it a little bit difficult for them to get go again under Hatches if you play this. Also, it's very good against Azalea, which has definitely been seeing more play at the moment. Not so good against much all of the other decks in the format right now though, as far as I'm aware, so I'm just keeping them in the main deck because it's still a 3-block and still a 0 cost and a blue. Having it in the main deck allows me to have more sideboard slots, which is quite nice, but depending on the meta shapes up, or if you don't have these, feel free to cut these, put a couple of Lord of Winds in here to cut cost, and then just add a Mugenshi Release or 2 and you should be pretty much good to go. I really like the Winds of Eternity combo line though, because Winds of Eternity with the 100 Winds combo line, because this one lets you recycle 100 Winds back into the deck, if they do try to respect this one by overblocking it, then you pretty much get a free turn after that. Be Like Water at the moment, it's not really doing much for me. Like, Be Like Water is nice if you can play it and you have an Ancestral Empowerment ready to give it a little push it to 4 damage, getting the damage and then turning it into a Surging Strike. It's still a 0 cost though, so it's still convenient to be able to discard it to Katsu, and in some niche situations it does allow you to turn this into a Surging Strike, but right now it kind of feels like a card that just forces the opponent to block. In a way it does gain its value back, because they do need to respect Ancestral Empowerment, so if you do play it, they usually give you 2 cards for 1, which is really good value. It's like 6 value or even 4 value if you consider it with the equipment, but I'm not sure. I think I could probably utilize this slot to have something that's a little bit more aggro, that's maybe also a 0 cost. So for the matchups, I have all the sideboarding stuff in there. Right now, the Dorinthia is focused for the Hatchet's Dorinthia. I don't think we're going to be seeing a Dawnblade Dorinthia in the near future. If it's a Dawnblade Dorinthia that you're going to be facing and you know it's a Dawnblade Dorinthia, you should probably cut the Art of Wars out, put those back into your sideboard. Maybe keep just 1 copy, because if you draw into multiple of these and on a crucial turn where you need to overblock the Dawnblade, it feels really bad, so having 1 copy is usually good enough against them. And then if you're up against a Dawnblade Dory, you can bring the Moss of Momentum instead, so that you have a little bit more of a game plan where you force them to block with at least 1 card. And other than that, I think the matchups are pretty much good to go at the moment. There are some things that I'm still tweaking here and there when I'm playing that I feel like, this wasn't good, this was very good, and I will adjust some things here and there, but feel free to have a look at it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer some questions here and there. So is Katsu a top tier deck? I think at the moment, I wouldn't say it's an S tier deck, but I think it's a solid A tier deck, and if you master a deck like this, you're going to be doing quite well in Flesh and Blood in general, so I can highly recommend it. Also, the price point, like look here, $252 to build in full competitive deck. It's quite cheap for TCGs. I'm very happy that Flesh and Blood is now finally in a range where it's affordable to play, so that's kind of nice. And if you cut things like the Warmonger's Diplomacies out, that number is going to be decreased even further. If you're a new player, you're looking for a good deck to pick up, I think this is definitely it. I don't think that Katsu will hit Living Legend anytime soon, simply because it requires a lot of mastery to be able to navigate this deck well. Even if a deck like this spikes a big tournament and let's say a lot of people net deck it and stop playing it, they are not going to be able to do well with this, because I see too many Katsu players just trying to play this like a fight aggro deck. But you don't want to play this like an aggro deck. Like, this is a mid-range deck that can go very aggro at the right time. Like when you have everything set up for your Bonds of Ancestry, when you have everything lined up to go in for a +8 value out of war turn or better. But up until that point, you just want to put a little bit of pressure and playing a bit more of a control plan, similar to how Ira used to play. And I think that's one of the things that I see a lot of people doing wrong. But that's good. That means that if you are interested in Katsu and you do know how you're actually supposed to be playing this deck, then you have a bit of an edge over other players. So yeah, that's all from me for today. I will try to upload another video in about 2 weeks from now if I can find the time to do so. I do want to get back into content creation actively very soon, so give me a bit of time. I'm finally stabilizing and I should have everything set up properly to be able to do what I want to do in a timely fashion. It's just for the main channel, it's really so much work to get a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a One Piece video edited. It takes like 40 to 60 hours to make those videos, so it's a little bit of a fresh breath of air when I can do a Flesh and Blood video that I can just open up February and go over the cards individually, because we have such a great and competitive player base that knows what they're doing, that knows what all the cards are doing. So it's really a bit of a nice feeling that I don't need to edit as much for people to understand what I'm talking about. I think in that regard I kind of prefer making Flesh and Blood content, because for these other games you get more views, but it's also very work intensive to be able to push that kind of content out. But well, it's just the way it is, I guess. Either way, thank you for watching everyone. I hope to see you all very soon with another video, and have a great day. Take care.